Hey, good Sunday afternoon, everybody. This is Brando here, and there was a request on my channel to do some 45 caliber reloading, so I thought I would go through and do a little bit of that today. And I've kind of prepared a little bit of things of kind of showing you everything that I'll be using for this particular reloading process. So let's kind of get started. Oh, before I forget, don't forget about the contest. There is a contest video that I have up, and the contest ends December 10th, 2011, so you still have another 6 days to enter the contest. I will be doing a drawing for the contest winners on December the 10th, that evening, more than likely. You will be winning a Victorinox Swiss Army knife, and you can go and look at some of the other videos and look at the contest video on that. All you got to do to subscribe is just be a subscriber. To enter the contest is just be a subscriber and make a comment in the comment section of that video. So, alright, so here we go. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and kind of show you what we're doing here. Here I have some Hornady bullets. These are the bullets that I'm going to be using. These are the 45 caliber, 230 grain. These are a full metal jacket round nose. And this is the 451 inch of a diameter bullet. Okay, these are other 45 caliber, like the 45 Colt and the 45 Casull or 454 Casull. Those are a little bit larger bullet. So when you do a 45 ACP bullet, make sure it's 451. You can also refer to your manual, and your manual will tell you which bullet to use. Okay, and I actually have this bullet right here. Even though it says it's discontinued here, I was able to find some, and that's what I'll be using today. Of course, you need a press. Anybody that's seen my other videos knows that I'm using a Hornady Classic single stage press. I also have my brass. Now this brass has not been prepared except for cleaning, and I've used my Hornady tumbler for that. Alright, so the primers are still in there and stuff like that. I'm going to need my calipers. This is a set of Lyman calipers, and I'll be doing some measurements for that. I'm using Winchester 231 powder, okay, for 45 ACP, and I have some primers that I bought off the guy. I also have another box of like 1,000 primers, but I'm going to use these up first. These are CCI primers. These are actually probably pretty old, but they work fairly well. Of course, I have the Hornady 45 ACP dies, okay, and that's what I'll be using today. These dies have already been set up, and if you want to learn how to set the Hornady dies up, I have another video doing that with, I believe, 9mm. Or maybe I did it with the 45, so maybe I did a video on that already. Alright, next thing I have here is my powder measure. And I got some of these nice cases. See, I've done 100 already that I've had done a while. I'm using a Lyman Pro 500 scale. And here's my Hornady book. And we can kind of get started. So, the first thing that we need to do, regardless of powder and all that kind of stuff, I guess you got to have to know really what you're doing before you start. But a lot of things you can do ahead of time without knowing powder and all that kind of stuff, what you're actually trying to do. There's a lot of prep work that you can do step by step. There's basically 4 different processes that you want to do. And the first thing, once you have some clean brass, so maybe that's the first step, is cleaning your brass or buying new brass or whatever. But the first step is basically sizing and depriming your old brass. So basically what I want to do is I want to get this spent primer out of here, okay, and I want to resize this because a lot of the pressure has caused this to expand, and I want to get it back to where it's supposed to be in factory specifications, okay, and I'll do that with one of my Hornady dies. The second thing I want to do is I want to expand the case mouth of the case, okay, so I can actually put a bullet in there and it will accept that bullet. Okay, so it makes it easier to move it up into the press, and I'll go through that as well. The third step is to move over to, when I do, this is me, people do it differently. When I do my case expansion, okay, that's the same time I actually prime my loads, okay. So I'll do that in priming in the same step. Then my third step is to powder, put the powder into the cases, and I'll measure 1 out of every 10 or 20. That's a pretty consistent powder measure. I'm fairly confident in it. Sometimes I'll do all 50 and then measure like the first and last load. People think that may be unsafe, but I'm really confident that's a very good powder measure. But I will measure it here on the Lyman scale. And this is the Hornady 8th edition book that I use. And it's a fairly good book. It's very detailed too. I really like it. And I'll be using this bullet, which is the round nose. And I'll be using, of course, I said the Winchester 231. And I'll probably be using somewhere around 5.5 grains. Okay? And it's in between this here, but 5.5 grains. 5.7 says is the maximum. This is for target ammo, so I'm not really trying to make this awesome load. So there's no need to. So let me get the tripod set up and we'll begin. Okay, as I mentioned before, the first step that we're going to do is we're going to size and deprime using all the cases. And this is the sizing and depriming die. Okay. The sizing actually goes on inside the die, and this little notch here actually does the depriming. Okay, so as you lift the ram of the reloader, sorry, lost my tongue there. As you lift the ram, it will actually deprime the case. So I use the Hornady lock and load. You've probably seen me do this before, but basically you stick that bushing there, you make a slight twist, and I'm already set up and good to go. Okay, there's no have to screw anything in or whatnot. I take a case out of my loading block, and first thing I need to do is put in my shell plate, put my case there, and basically just simply lift the ram. Alright, my primer came out, it's gone, and this case is now sized. Okay. Now sometimes I'll use 2 loading blocks, okay, so you don't distinguish where you are. Only time that really comes in a big nuisance is powder, but I'm standing right over it when I do the powder, so 1 loading block is just fine for me. Okay, so basically what I do is I keep doing this 50 times until I'm finished. And I can sit here and knock these out in about 4 minutes. I've actually done time studies on this. You know, it's not that big of a deal. I can do it probably in about 2, depends on how fast I'm taking my time. Now the nice thing about this Hornady press is it does a fairly good job of capturing the spent primer. So all the spent primers are in there, and I'll eventually throw all these away. You hear a lot of times about other presses that will throw primers all over the floor, and that does happen with any of them, from what I understand, even this one. But this one does a fairly good job at not doing that. So I'm going to pause the video, run through these, and we'll get to the next step. Alright, so we're done with that. The next thing to do, basically, is to change out this die, and we'll put our expander die on. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll also take this catcher off, because I don't really need this anymore, and then I'll just simply just dump that in the trash. Alright, so here I have my expander die. So the next thing I'm going to do is put in the primers. Now, I don't have a scientific way to do this, and I'm just going to warn you guys up front. But basically what I do is I just dump a few of the primers out onto the table in my hand, like so. Just put them right there. And I'll throw one in the primer feeder here, put my case on, expand it, and seat the primer. And then what I have now is a nice, make sure you can see that on camera, nice primed case. Okay, so it's not rocket science, but what I do, as I basically move this up and I get into a little rhythm, I'll expand it, throw the primer in, seat it, and just start running. And I do that until I get all the cases primed. And I visually inspect them here or there, but I pretty much have a good feel for it at this point in time. And I make sure that my primers are generally seated. They need to be flush with the case. Okay, but that's basically it. And I like doing this in a two-step method, and I don't use a separate primer or anything like that. I mean, I just don't own one of those. I don't know if I would like that or not, but this seems to be a method that works for me, and I can do, like I said, do two things at once. And number one, I don't have to buy a separate piece of equipment, and that to me can be important. So I'll knock these out, and I will come back to you again, and at that particular point in time, we'll be ready to do some powder measuring. So let me go ahead and do one more, and I'll pause the video. And we'll do some powder measuring here in a second. Hey, one thing that I forgot to mention was, just as a personal preference for me, is I do not worry about, on range ammo, cleaning primer pockets or anything like that. That's just an extra step that I really don't want to do. Okay? So like my primers, I mean, they're gunky and stuff like that, and as long as my primer does seat firmly, and they seat to the proper depth, I generally don't worry about that. And I just kind of wanted to mention that as well, because I didn't mention that before as far as one of the steps that I did. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to mention. I thought I had something in my head, but I don't think so. So I just wanted to mention that as well. So I don't worry about trimming any cases for pistol. I've gotten asked that question before as well. I just generally don't do it. So just to answer a couple of questions, just in case they get asked a little bit later. Okay, so I finished priming. So all the cases are primed. I went ahead and moved my loading block over, from this station right here over to my powder station. And I have my powder here. And the next thing I need to do is a couple of things. I make sure that my powder measure is nice and tight in there, because sometimes I remove this to make videos. And I want to put some powder in here. And I simply just unscrew my powder can. And I just want to make sure that no powder goes all over the place. And I'll just fill it up some. Some people fill it up all the way. I guess it depends on how much you're actually going to be making. That's probably good enough for me. Okay. And I'll put this top back on for right now. Alright, so really what I need to do, I need to kind of move this out of the way. And I guess the first step is to calibrate that scale. So I have my scale, and I need to move this back to 0 for everything. And I need to make sure that those lines line up. And I generally don't move this scale too much. So to be honest with you, it's fairly zeroed as long as I keep it in that spot. And you can see that it's almost zeroed. I'll adjust it just a tad bit. Okay, to my liking. And then basically I have a zeroed scale there. Okay? So the next thing I need to do is, based off of my loading manual, okay, I'm going to put 5.5 grains of the Winchester 231 in there. So I need to measure 5.5 grains. And what I'll generally do is I'll do this a few times to be consistent, to make sure I'm getting the right amount in there. And the last time I used a powder measure was for the Winchester 231, so it should be set up already. So I'm just going to move this over one notch, that's to the 5, and then move over my small scale over to the 5, okay? And then dispense some powder into this tray, okay? And then see if it's 5.5 grains. And like I said, since I probably used this last time, it's probably going to come pretty close. And you can see, without any adjustment already, that it's pretty close. So I just need to wind that down a little bit until I get the right adjustment. So what you do is you basically just pour this back into your powder measure, make a small adjustment, okay, try it again, weigh it, and then see where you have until it's measured up. Now I'm almost there. I'm just a tad below, so I will adjust it out just a smidgen and do it again. Now once I do get it dialed in to where I need it to be, then I'll try it, you know, about two more times to make sure that it's on 0. And like I said, I'm fairly confident in this particular powder measure. I've never had it go wrong on me. So it's dead on right now. So let me do another one, and then we'll begin charging our cases. Alright, it is pretty much dead on, and I'll show you. I mean, it is down maybe just a little bit, but you know, for range ammo, and I have this long range of powders that I can use, so it's okay. So we're going to go with that. And what I'll do, I'll go ahead and throw this back in here. And then what I do, put this top back on. Let me make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. And I'll just move this down just a little. Oh, you can see just fine. I'll take my block and I put it up underneath this little nodule. Boom, 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 until they're all done. When I was timing myself doing this stuff, I can do the powder measure once it's measured in a minute. I mean, this is easy. And I'm standing right over it to make sure that I'm not putting any double loads in, and I can see exactly where I'm putting my powder. And then in a matter of seconds, I've done 20 cases. And that's where I'm almost done here. And I've actually done more than 20, I think. And maybe I'll stop right here. Yeah, I've done exactly 20. Maybe I'll stop right here, do another measurement, just to make sure I'm still on track. Oop, it's a daisy. Actually, almost spilled that one. Throw that one back in. Now, if you spill your powder, never fret, because the powder makes a good fertilizer, by the way. Now, it's still dead on. So I'm going to keep on putting the powder in, and then we'll get ready to the bullet seating. Okay, that wasn't long at all. So now I'm ready to actually start putting some bullets in here and actually making a finished product. So I'll change out my dies. This is my bullet seeder die, and I'm going to put that here. I can take this priming tool off because I don't need that now, and it does get in the way. And then here are my bullets. So open this up, and I already have the box open, and these are a round nose with a lead core. And this, like I said, these are for the range for me. Maybe the SHTF situation for right now, because I don't have any hollow points in 45. Basically what I do is I take this box, I put it close to where I am, and sometimes I'll put this in a bin just to make sure that I can have easy access to it. I put the bullet right on top. Now since I've expanded it, and let me see if I can get a little close up there. Since I've expanded that casing, the bullet just sits there for me. Then all I got to do is ram that sucker right up, and then I have a finished bullet. Okay. Now I have already gone through the painstaking measurement process of these bullets, but I do want to check to make sure that I'm on the money. And I basically run this caliper, okay, and it says that I'm at 1.23 inches, or actually 1.232 inches. Okay, so 2 1/1000ths of an inch over, which is not a huge deal. And according to my manual, the overall case length should be 1.23. Okay, so I am pretty much dead on the money. And I just basically start putting these back in here. So, like I said, these dies were already set up for this particular round, so it makes things a lot easier. And I just start loading. And then once I do this 50 times, then I got 50 bullets, my friends. So I'll pause the video again, run through this, and I'll show you my finished product. Basically we're done, but you know, still fun to see the finished product. You hung out with me this far, right? Alright, pause the video. Hey, as I was finishing these up, I wanted to kind of mention a couple of things about this press. you notice that it seems like an awful lot of work to do 50 rounds, and it's really not that bad. Even with me talking to you on the camera and stuff like that, I can actually do about 50 rounds in about 45 minutes or so. Okay, the actual time that it takes to do this stuff with the setup and that sort of thing is really only about 20-something minutes. But there are gaps between the setups and that sort of thing. You know, if you're doing a lot of pistol shooting, the ideal thing to do would be to get an auto progressive press. An auto progressive press would be one that you can do multiple things at one time, where you'd have all your dies in your and powder measure in the actual press itself, and you can go in and supposedly with some of these presses like the Dillon and like the Hornady Auto Progressive, you can do something like, I don't know, 600 rounds per hour. Now, I don't have the money to do 600 rounds per hour, and the way that I kind of figured it was that if I could do 600 rounds per hour, then I would probably reload like once every 6 months, because I just wouldn't need to do it that much. And the cost of components still are kind of expensive, and you end up shooting more and that sort of thing. So maybe I would shoot more than I do, but, you know, the idea that I got into reloading for was simply of the pure enjoyment of it. I enjoy doing it. I like the science behind it. And to be quite honest, since I'm a computer guy, I like the idea of coming out in the garage and kind of hanging out for about 45 minutes to an hour and doing something and get a sense of completion. And this kind of does that for me. And it's a nice way to sit out here by yourself. During the baseball season, I'll come out here and listen to the Braves game. A lot of times I'll listen to the college football on a Saturday. You know, that depending on what we got going on. So I like a lot of college basketball too, so I'll listen to that. So kind of get away from everything, and I get a chance to have a little fun too, which is pretty cool. Now, does that mean that I would turn down an auto progressive press if someone were to give me one, or I could get a good deal on one? No, I would want one. Actually, I do want one very bad. I would like to have the Hornady Auto Progressive. Now, after I got into reloading, I found out that I don't reload as much as I thought I would. And I come out here when I can. And the single stage just does it for me, and I don't really worry too much about it. So, with me talking, we're basically done. So I have 50 rounds. Okay? We'll move it over here. And I have my little block here, my case guard, and some stickers if you want to keep track of what your loads are. And I just start throwing these suckers in here, and I put them face down. Oops, sorry, can't see that. And just transfer them over, and then I'm done. So I have my block ready for the next one that I got going on. Also, it gives me time to visually inspect the rounds and that sort of thing too. And during the process, that was the other thing I was going to tell you, is during the process when you're doing the sizing and everything, you know, you do all of the inspection and all that kind of stuff at that time. Make sure that you don't have any bad brass and that sort of thing. That's kind of when I do all that stuff. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I actually got out and did something and was able to do a video at the same time. So, I appreciate it. I'm going to put my powder back into its canister and kind of pick up my tools around here and be done for the day. Maybe clean my AR. I shot my AR yesterday, and I need to clean it. So, also, if you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe. I like the support. My channel's growing, and I really appreciate everybody giving me some good comments and good feedback. Also, make sure you enter the contest. That contest is only 6 days left of it for my thank you contest for just reaching 100 subs. So, you know, subscribe and let's build this sucker up together. I appreciate it. You guys take care.